I'll never forget the look on Karen's face as red and blue lights painted streaks across her flawlessly manicured lawn. There she stood, arms defiantly crossed, that smug grin frozen on her face, as she pointed dramatically at our newly installed security gate. She was certain this was it. Her moment of triumph. After weeks of escalating harassment, Karen Wilkins, the self-proclaimed president of the Oakwood Estates HOA, had finally called the cops on us. I sat and witnessed it unfold from the security camera monitor. The two officers approached our house with caution. One paused, tapping his earpiece. His body stance altered as he heard, and he then turned to Karen with a look of instant skepticism. "Ma'am," he said stubbornly, "dispatch is telling us that this is a false report. There is no crisis here." Karen's jaw fell. "That's not possible," she grumbled. I heard screaming. "Something is being done improperly in there, I'm certain." She was getting loud enough to sound that all-too-familiar shriek, which had long since become a predictable standard in our home. What Karen didn't and couldn't know was that the 911 operator who had received her call was my wife, Elaine. My wife and I had only been residing in our fantasy house for 3 months. It was a quiet, pretty piece of ground on the very edge of Oakwood Estates, technically out of the HOA's purview. That had been specified by the old owners, and we had the documents to prove it. But proximity was enough for Karen. It started out innocently enough. A knocking on the door, clipboard, smile that faltered slightly. "Hello to the community," she said. "I just wanted to let you know that your mailbox is not up to our community standards. You will have to replace it in 7 days." I smiled politely and explained to her that we weren't an HOA community. I even offered to show her the paperwork, but she dismissed it with a laugh. "That's just a common misconception," she told me, waving me off. "All homes in this visual corridor have to meet our aesthetic requirements." Next, she pushed a behemoth 3-ring binder into my hands, a regulation book that had ridiculously elaborate codes, authorized beiges for outside paint, regulations on numbers and size of garden gnomes, even specifications for porch light wattage. Karen's visits became a regular weekly occurrence after that. First, the landscaping, then the lighting, then the trash cans. Every time I reminded her nicely that our lawn was not part of the HOA. Every time she grew more irate. My wife suggested that we just ignore her. That lasted for 2 days, until Karen started leaving violation notices on our mailbox. Then she began standing outside on the street, taking photographs of our house, lingering as long as 15 minutes sometimes. She even blocked our driveway one time with her golf cart while she was measuring the height of our hedges with a tape measure. When I asked her to leave, she had a 20-minute rant about community responsibility. The final straw was when we received a certified letter informing us that we owed $750 in fines for rules that didn't even apply to us. That's when I had reached my limit. We installed a small wrought iron perimeter gate with keypad and intercom. It wasn't showy, but it defined our boundary. Karen was irate. She left a series of voicemails demanding the gate code for emergency access, invoking fabricated regulations, and promising court action. I had stored every message, every warning notice, every threatening letter. Elaine, the veteran emergency communications specialist she is, said we would likely need a restraining order if it did continue to escalate. Then there was that morning. I was in my house working when the gate buzzer started ringing continually. On the security monitor, I could see Karen jabbing her finger into the button over and over, her face set in stubborn determination. I reluctantly answered the intercom. "Open the gate immediately," she barked. "I've had a complaint and need to inspect your property." "Karen," I whispered, "you know we're not within the HOA. You have no right here. Stop harassing us." Her eyes pressed together. "Don't you dare question my authority. I'm the HOA president of 7 years. Open this gate or else." "Karen, I'm trying to work. Please leave or I'll have to report you for harassment." "You'll regret this," she hissed, storming back to her golf cart. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 20 minutes later, the system alerted me to more movement. There she was again, this time on her phone, waving her arms and pointing at our house. I turned up the volume just in time to hear her say, Yes, I need police immediately. I heard someone screaming inside, and now they won't open the gate. I think someone is hurt. The address is 4287 Oakwood Drive. My stomach fell. Karen was making false 911 calls. I phoned Elaine, but she was at work and couldn't answer. I could only stand there, powerless, as Karen marched back and forth in front of our gate like a guard dog pouncing on prey. What I didn't know then was that Elaine had called Karen back. Elaine recognized her voice immediately. She also recognized our address. Procedurally, Elaine couldn't simply ignore the call, but she could flag it as suspicious. She dispatched officers for a welfare check, not a full response, and noted it. The caller has made harassing calls to this residence. 10 minutes had elapsed when a patrol car came by. Karen dashed out to meet them, practically dragging the officers towards our gate. I came out to meet them, holding the gate closed behind me. "Officers, I'm the resident," I explained, holding up ID. "There is no emergency. This woman has been bothering us for months concerning HOA regulations that don't even apply to our property." One of the officers nodded, touched his earpiece, and listened. "Sir," he asked, "is your wife Elaine Miller?" I nodded, still not knowing where this was going. "She's dispatching today. She provided some background on this call." Then he turned to Karen, whose superior smile was starting to recede. "Ma'am, did you make the 911 call reporting screams and a possible emergency?" "Yes, and they wouldn't open the gate," she snapped. "There could be someone hurt in there." The tone of the officer's voice turned glacial. "His dispatcher is this man's wife. She signed that you've repeatedly intimidated this family with HOA complaints. She also checked that there wasn't an emergency when you called." Karen went pale. "That's not true. I heard something. She's lying to protect her husband." The second officer cut in. "Ma'am, all 911 calls are recorded. We have your words verbatim. This is not the first time you've made such complaints against residents who've questioned your authority." Neighborhoods had started gathering, watching in silence from their stoops. Karen looked about, fear flickering in her eyes. "Karen Wilkins," the first officer declared, "you're arrested for making a false report to the police and misuse of emergency services." Her jaw hung open in shock. "This is ridiculous. I'm the president of the HOA. I was defending the community." "You still committed a crime," said the officer. As they took her away in the patrol car, Karen spun back on me, rage burning in her eyes. "This isn't over," she snarled. "Actually, Karen," I said quietly, "I think it is." Later, a neighbor approached me, an older gentleman, one of the established residents. "We've long wanted to cry foul about her," he confessed. "No one had the guts. Until now." Elaine reached me later during her break to get my verification about everything I had suspected. She had reported Karen's call, documented all the details, and made sure it would hold up in court. 3 weeks later, Karen was declared guilty at her hearing. The judge, unmoved by her theatrics, ordered a $5,000 fine, 1 year of probation, and 200 hours of community service. Sweetest revenge of all. A restraining order prohibited her from coming within 100 feet of our home. But the justice really came when the HOA held an emergency meeting. Karen was voted out as president unanimously. As she was escorted out of the meeting room, she had a look of utter shock, incapable of believing that her reign of petty despotism was at last, finally, over.